Cancelled video games are a wondrous thing. Gamers will obsess over the unrealised potential, the missed opportunities, and eventually assume the games would have been the best thing ever. This is what this list is all about. I'm going to take a look at those games that never were. Some were almost fully developed, whilst others barely made it past the concept stage. Either way, these are 5 of the games I wish they had gone on to make. Sure, as they're something we can't have, the fondness and hype is way overblown. It's likely many of them would have just been as good as any other game, but as they will never come out, we can only imagine. These are my top 5 cancelled games. Oh, and before anyone comments, Star Fox 2 won't be on this list. As it's been released officially by Nintendo on the SNES Mini, it's no longer cancelled in my mind. On with the list. The Arkham games have cemented Batman's legacy in the video game world. They saved the Caped Crusader from the mediocrity he suffered during his wilderness years, and gave us some truly great games. Despite this, they are hardly groundbreaking. They have a solid open world with fun gameplay, but the setting, story and characters aren't really anything new, and are familiar with anyone that has read a Batman comic or watched one of the many forms of Batman media that's been made over the years. That's why Gotham by Gaslight would have been such a breath of fresh air. Set in 1889 in a Victorian version of Gotham City, it would see Batman embracing the era, injecting the series with a steampunk vibe and a totally new aesthetic and theme. It's not that the existing interpretations of Gotham City and Batman in video games are boring by any means, but just that a shake-up is never a bad thing, and video games are the perfect place for a series to experiment in new directions and really try and broaden the characters and stories that they want to tell. Batman as a character is pretty universal. Rich parents have always existed in some form or another, so his origin could be placed in pretty much any time period, as long as there is some sort of threat of crime. In this case, the enemy would have been Jack the Ripper, who inherits a quasi-Joker mentality. The game was cancelled when THQ couldn't secure the rights, and seems to be largely forgotten about as an idea by any major studio today. I really think this idea should be revisited. The last Arkham game has met with great reviews, but it does seem like people are getting a little tired of the familiar setting and themes. I don't see any reason why a game like this wouldn't succeed. They can lift much of the gameplay mechanics, but put it into a wholly new setting and style and tell a completely new, hopefully original story featuring a new Batman. Now before anyone comments otherwise, I know that the comic books have experimented in many different types of Batman, including this one, but I'm talking specifically about the games. And I know the video being shown now would have been rendered on a very high-end PC, but those cape physics are pretty tasty. Highlander is one of my favourite movies. It has a great 80s vibe to it, and has an intriguing yet easy to follow plot and premise. The series, however, has been treated horrendously since their first film, with every sequential movie, TV show and game further confusing the plot and digging the grave of what was once a promising franchise, ensuring that it will forever be consigned to mediocrity in the minds of anyone who hasn't just seen the first film and stopped watching forever. This is why I am desperate for something else that's genuinely good to come out bearing the Highlander name. Back in 2005, Eidos, which is now part of Square Enix, signed a deal to create a next-gen Highlander video game, due to release in 2008. The game was to follow Owen MacLeod, a new immortal, as he fights in the Roman gladiator pits, and then through 2,000 years of his life, battling enemies as he beheads them in order to win the prize. The game was to feature 77 other characters, with 18 missions, set in various open world cities, and have a gameplay style that was something of a mix between Assassin's Creed and Crackdown. It probably would have come out and been a standard solid game for that gen, but even that would have been a huge step up for the franchise. Highlander has definitively failed in the movie department. He is hoping that the world of video games could one day be the saviour of the series. Dungeon Keeper and Dungeon Keeper 2 are 2 of my favourite games. Dungeon Keeper was a series in which you play as an omnipotent deity that controls a dungeon of demons, goblins and other such evil critters as you take care of their day-to-day needs, research, mine and eventually attack the good guys that threaten your existence. It had a wicked charm and was genuinely well made and fun series. The series was well received, so a further sequel seemed likely. A trailer was even included on a DK2 disc featuring Horny stepping outside the dungeon world ready to take the fight to the good guys on their own turf. It was an exciting premise. The underground dungeon formula would surely have been revamped to surmise for this development, and I think personally that may have been what sunk it. They couldn't really go back on this idea once this trailer had been made, but actually implementing such a plot but keeping it in the same franchise would have been a very difficult and risky thing to do, as it could alienate the existing fans and have no real pull for new ones. The official line from Bullfrog for the reason for the cancellation was that they were simply focusing on other properties on the PS2 and didn't have time to make it. With Bullfrog and their breakaway company Lionhead Studios both dead, and the absolute bastardisation of the franchise with Dungeon Keeper Mobile, it seems the best bet for anything good to come out of this series is just to hope that War for the Overworld, an independent spiritual successor, can one day meet the series' lofty heights. The original Star Wars Battlefront and its sequel, Battlefront 2, are two of my favourite ever games. They put you in the shoes of a soldier in the front lines of the galactic battles that took place across the universe, and whether you are fighting on the side of the Rebellion, the Empire, the Confederacy or the clones, it was awesome. It was an addictive mix of capturing points and completing other objectives, and has really stood the test of time. When it was announced that a Battlefront 3 was in development, I was hyped. I couldn't wait to get some massive local multiplayer sessions in playing it, and on next gen consoles too. The potential was immense. I wondered how they could expand on the original. Apparently it was to have way more people on screen, some level of customization, and battles that would go straight from land to space and everything in between. It sounded like an absolute dream, and to top it off, it was to be made by one of my favourite video game developers, Free Radical, also known for the TimeSplitters series. Around 2008, the game was pretty much done, and from the recent leaked footage, looks pretty awesome. Sure, it is dated by modern standards, but I can tell I would have had an extreme amount of fun with this game. Now I know there is a new Battlefront, and an upcoming Battlefront 2, which adopts many of the gameplay mechanics those games had, and they're actually quite fun. But it's a different kind of fun, the games just have a different feel to them. Now that EA is in charge, that original vision of the sort of simple yet epic and fluid game the Free Radical was making will never be about, no matter how many sequels there are. Perhaps it's my nostalgia and fondness for the original games talking, but man, I wish this would have been uncancelled. The TimeSplitters series is legendary. It has a certain combination of wit, charm and playability that make it extremely enjoyable to play, and even to this day, if you can get a group of people together, it is still a great amount of fun. It was the old school style of FPS that you just don't get anymore, wandering around a level with sort of floaty physics, getting medpacks and using whatever weapon you found on the ground, as well as the various puzzles based on whatever the gimmick of that particular level was. The multiplayer mode meant the replayability was endless. Not only was there a massive amount of characters, levels, weapons and game types, you could even use the inbuilt map editor to make your own levels. So around 2007, when rumours of TimeSplitters 4 started coming out, I was excited. Couldn't wait for a new entry in one of my favourite ever series. But then Haze came out, Free Radical's next game, and it was awful, it just sucked. Free Radical never recovered and was sold to Crytek, who were quiet about the existence of TimeSplitters 4, before finally admitting they didn't think it would be worth making it due to the fanbase being small. The previous games sold just okay, they never did particularly well critically, but to this day they have a loyal fan following. In fact, that following is so strong that they're sort of making their own sequel, TimeSplitters Rewind, which has official approval. Unfortunately, it looks like they are having trouble with CryEngine and want to use Unreal Engine 4 but wouldn't be able to use the official brand. Either way, I hope that one day a true official sequel in the spirit of the original game can be uncancelled and released. So these are my top 5 cancelled games I wish would be uncancelled. I know there are some big hitters I didn't include, such as Star Wars 1313 and the honourable mentions at the start of this video, but this is quite a personal list and highly subjective. I'd love to hear everyone else's opinions and see what you would have included on your list. If you enjoyed this video, please consider commenting, sharing and subscribing. Goodbye!